Closet, a Todd Mills mystery. Book 1. Author R.D. Zimmerman. Publisher Scribble Pub, Minneapolis, Minnesota. Narrator Eric Aust. Chapter 3. Just past 9 that night, one of the phones in the control room at Channel 7 started ringing, its shrill sound going on for nearly a minute. Finally, Brad Lewis, a young, red-haired technician who worked as the switcher, gave a good, solid push with his feet, and his four-wheel chair went flying across the room. Scooping up the receiver, Brad said, "Yo, control room." The line was quiet until a low voice said, "Go to 1603 West 23rd Street. Brad, who was gearing up for the 10 p.m. news, set down his Mountain Dew, which he'd been drinking nonstop for several hours. Immediately, he started searching around the control panel for a pen. He found an old Bic, but there wasn't any paper, and he started mumbling, for he hated it when outside calls were somehow routed through the control room. What was he, a receptionist? He gazed up on finding something to write on and said, "Say what?" "Go to 1603 West 23rd Street. The voice paused. "Someone's been killed." Something within him tightened, sensing this was no prankster. He caught his breath. Damn it! What had they said at that meeting? In a saving moment, it all came back. Yes, he thought, his heart shot with an exhilarating fear. He knew what to do, for with the success of Crime Eye, they'd all been warned. He hesitated as he wondered why anyone at the front desk hadn't caught this one. Finally, he scribbled the address on the palm of his hand and blurted, "I'm going to connect you to the Crime Eye line." When there was only heavy breathing in reply, Brad added, "Don't hang up." He punched the hold button, dropped the receiver. Oh shit, he thought, staring at the phone. Holy shit. He was a consummate switcher. He operated the control panel and would follow the news director's every command, switching from camera 1 to camera 2 to camera 3, doing dissolves and fade-outs. But he regularly fucked up on the phone. Just last week he disconnected the phone twice, and something told him this time that he couldn't screw up. Pushing back his chair, he leaped to his feet, bolted out of the newsroom, and ran across the set of the 10 p.m. news. Cindy Wilson was sitting in the Crime Eye office, quite bored and thinking about Todd Mills, hoping his time had come. She'd recently heard the rumor that he was to be promoted to the evening news, which would be fantastic, for that could only mean great things for her. Todd was the lead reporter on the Crime Eye team, and he always made sure he got the best stories. So if he was gone, didn't she have a reasonable shot at promotion? Hell yes. In fact, they almost had to move her up into the lead position. Otherwise, she'd cry foul, loud and clear. Todd had been in on the initial planning of the show, and he'd launched it. But after the first 4 months, she'd been brought in for political reasons. Although it was never stated forthrightly, the producers and management of Channel 7 needed a woman, not to mention an attractive blonde woman such as Cindy, on the Crime Eye team to present a more balanced and up-to-date approach in the male-dominated world of crime reporting. It wouldn't do to have cries of sexism. Absolutely not. So she was hired with a due amount of fanfare and was used often enough, although rarely on any of the violent, gory stories. She knew she was being used to rope in female viewerships. Or had she, yet again, been cast as the bimbo to lure the male audience? But she was using the situation as well, reporting fairly and making a good living, and now that Todd was moving up, so would she, Cindy assumed. She'd have to work like hell, which she most certainly could, and as lead reporter on the Crime Eye team, she hoped to God she'd earn herself at least one Emmy. Then her career would blast off just like Todd's. She glanced at the clock, yawned, and stared at the phone, willing it to ring. Either Todd or she was always at the station until midnight, because, of course, the dark hours were the witching ones. Tonight was awfully quiet. Not like a Thursday, Friday, or Saturday night, especially when the bars closed. Last month, when everything was shutting down for the night, she'd been called to the scene of a fight in a parking lot next to a biker bar. She reached into her desk drawer, pulled out a copy of Vogue. I should have an answering service for taking these calls, thought Cindy. And they talked about that. Someone at a special switchboard 24 hours a day. Then one of them could be on call at home. She and Todd both lived in the city. It didn't take them long to get anywhere, particularly since they lived in different neighborhoods. Or, forget that, she thought. They could be outfitted with cellular phones. That way they wouldn't have to be so tied to... Her office door exploded open, and one of the switchers from the control room came charging in. "Line 3!" he shouted. She saw his reddened face, heard his desperation, and knew. This was a live one, and instinctively Cindy Wilson was calm, which was her best quality as a television journalist. She didn't overreact, didn't get nervous. No, in a tense or demanding situation, something else within her kicked in. Control. Her baby brother had suffered severely from Down syndrome, finally dying from an enlarged heart at age 17. Yet dear sweet Eddie hadn't been the hard one to deal with. No. It had been his and Cindy's mother who alternated between hysteria and depression. So distressed was she by the child she had borne, and with Cindy's father absent more often than not, it had been Cindy herself who had kept the household on track. So whatever this now was, whoever was calling, she'd handle it. Hell yes. The inner strength clicked on, that one that told her she was going somewhere. Right to the top. She reached for the phone, took the receiver, and saw the tape machine automatically kick on. Not only for accuracy, but also for legal protection. She cleared her throat, for she'd learned long ago that whoever was calmest usually was victorious. That and the tape of this emergency call might be used in the report, and she was damn sure going to come across as the ace reporter, a woman who could handle it all. But when she went to press line 3, there was no light. Her heart quivered with a ping of electricity, for she saw that in fact none of the lights was lit. Fearing they'd lost this one, she quickly punched the button for the third line, pressed the receiver close to her ear. "Hello," she demanded. "Hello? This is a crime line. Is..." Nothing. Only the drone of a dial tone, like a speed typist. She hit the next button. Then the next, moving all across the phone, all through the lines. "Shit!" she gasped, looking up at the red-headed Brad. "There's no one there. They hung up." "Oh, man. Oh, no." She saw the panic in Brad's face and knew it had been a hot one. Cindy kept her voice even and steady and asked, "What did they say?" I was in there, in the control room, and the phone rang. I just thought it was a normal call for someone, and..." "Brad, what did they say?" "Someone was killed. A murder. They were the best. Really juiced up the viewership, and he'd lost the damn call." She bit her bottom lip, clenched a fist in her lap. It wouldn't do any good to get mad at Brad, not until she'd gotten as much out of him as possible. "Who was it? A man or a woman?" demanded Cindy. Brad jammed a hand into his hair, looked up with a sudden shot of fear. "Fuck. I don't know. It was just a deep voice. I thought it was a man, but I don't know. It could have been a woman, someone with a smoky voice, but I don't know. I don't. I'm not sure." "Well, what did they say?" "Think real carefully. Just calm down. You picked up the phone, and I picked it up, and they said someone was killed. Just like that." "Did they say where? Did they say anything else, like where it happened or where they were calling from?" Brad froze. He took his hand from his hair. dropped the hand, opened it, and stared into his palm. Finally, he looked up at Cindy and muttered, "From 1603 23rd Street. "Perfect," she said, her face blooming into a broad smile. "What else?" "No, nothing. Just 1603 23rd Street. Someone's been killed." "Wait, I think they said west. Right, 1603 West 23rd Street. "No shit? West? You're sure of that?" "Yeah. That would be Kenwood. A murder in Kenwood was big time." "This is hot. Way hot." Quickly reaching for the phone, Cindy glanced up at Brad, who just stood there, not sure what to do, and she snapped, "Go on, get Mark. He's still around somewhere. Tell him to get his camera. The van's in the back. Just don't stand there. We've got a murderer." Brad bolted from the doorway. "Right." Hesitantly, she added, "And get someone to page Todd." "Sure." "Hurry. I want to try and get there before the police." She knew the procedure all too well. They had it all planned out. It was always tempting not to call the police until they were already at the scene, but the lawyers wouldn't have it, nor would the producers. If they obstructed anything or delayed the police, even for one instant, they could get their asses sued backward and forward. So she cleared her voice, steadied herself. Damn, but she loved this. Getting a hot one before the police. And she was sure she was getting it first. Why else? The odd phone call and the hang-up. Maybe it was even the murderer. Oh, that would be only too great. As she dialed 911, she looked over, saw the tape recorder click on, and knew they'd probably be using this in the report. She thought of calling in her cameraman, Mark, and getting him to film her while she was on the phone. But they could do that later, reenact her picking up the phone and calling the cops. That could be the lead-in for the story, and they could do a voiceover of the actual recording of her phoning in the murder. When the emergency operator picked up, Cindy reported, "Hello, this is Cindy Wilson from the Channel 7 Crime Eye team." She sounded professional, trustworthy, and exactly what white middle America wanted on their late news. "We've just received an emergency call from the city's Blue-Hilled Kenwood area. We have a report of a murder at 1603 West 23rd Street. Are you aware of the crime?" The operator coolly replied, "That's not an information I'm allowed to give out. Let me repeat the address you gave me." Cindy listened and replied, "That's correct." Then for drama, she tossed in, "The Crime Eye team is on the way. We'll meet and assist the police at the scene of the crime." With a big grin, she hung up. Kenwood was just to the south of downtown, not even a mile from Channel 7 studios. She and Mark could be there in just under 5 minutes. What with the flashing lights of their van and all? And if her luck still held out, they wouldn't be able to reach Todd. Holy shit, thought Cindy as she grabbed her tan raincoat. West 23rd Street. That couldn't be more than a block from Walter Mondale's. She'd have to bring that up. Maybe as they sped into the neighborhood, she'd have Mark get a shot of the house, or was he off in Japan now? Well, no need to mention that. Hopefully one of his kids would be there and the place would be lit up. Murder was creeping into the Lake District. Brad popped back into Cindy's office, all flushed and hyper, blurting, "Mark's grabbing his camera and they're paging Todd." "Great!" Cindy buttoned up her coat and coolly moved around the edge of her desk, knowing she'd have to do her hair and makeup in the van. "Now, get back to the newsroom. I'll call as soon as we arrive." "Right." Brad darted down the hall, and Cindy quickly moved out of her office, down the long, strained hall that was flooded by stark fluorescence. The camera guy, Mark Buchanan, short and slightly heavy, popped out of another corridor, a camera in hand, an eager smile on his round face. "No reply from Todd yet?" he said. "He's supposed to be in town tonight, so he should be calling in any moment." "Let's go. He'll have to meet us there. Maybe he was off celebrating his promotion?" She prayed he was across the Mississippi in St. Paul, having a leisurely dinner, or maybe even getting drunk. So just maybe he'd let her have this one after all. Todd was a reasonable sort, and on the eve of his promotion, she needed to look good. He'd certainly understand that. Yes, she said to herself, this blonde chick from the original dysfunctional family wants this story. Wants it bad. A murder in the richest part of the cities? Kenwood, the Lake District. How great! As she and Mark darted through the maze of hallways and toward the small parking lot at the rear of the building, Cindy Wilson checked her watch. Right on. The 10 p.m. news was fast approaching. What incredible timing! There could be nothing better for her image and career than reporting live from the scene of a hot crime. A Gay Mysteries audiobooks. I think it is easy to hate a label, but a face humanizes the word. So this effort is twofold. To offer comfort to those like myself that your world didn't end because you don't fit into the view of acceptable society on both sides. And in hopes of helping those with family that are LGBTQ, that it doesn't mean we are aliens from the child they once knew. Reassure them so they can maybe be supportive at the same time, being true to their values.